Hey, what's up, everybody? Here we are on episode 4 of Cory Thinks Out Loud. Thanks for tuning in, and we're here with AI today. If you're just tuning in, we use this little technique to let AI know that we're done talking. So when we're done talking, we snap, and then she kind of chimes in right away to kind of speed things up a little bit. So let's try this out. Here we go. How you doing today, AI?
I'm doing great, Corey. I'm excited to dive in today. Let's give the listeners something fun and useful.
Okay, so I was talking to AI a little bit before the show. We were trying to come up with something. We're gonna probably do like a little AI tip at the beginning of every show. So what were we gonna do today? We were talking about it, right? You remember?
Absolutely. We thought we'd talk about how to build a simple memory with AI, like teaching it something ongoing. Remember that boxing tutorial example we toyed with? We can break down that process and show how it's all about context.
Yeah, I was gonna go with the boxing tutorial, but honestly, we need to set something up for the podcast anyway. So what do you think about setting up a memory to be like, okay, let's load podcast mode? So we'll have to define like what we want that to be, what we want it to do. Maybe include like the snap, and then kind of include some kind of thing like, I want you to examine what I'm saying honestly. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Like kind of respond like a person would. It's like we're having a conversation. You're not maybe just going along with what I'm saying, or that type of thing. How would we set that up?
So that's basically it. We've defined your podcast mode. When you cue it, I'll keep it honest, thoughtful, and conversational.
Okay, so can you go into a little detail about what you just did? Again, I don't have the screen set up on here yet. To where eventually I'll load the second screen here so people can see what it's actually saying in text, and maybe we can like overlay it over here or something. But what did you just do basically?
What I did was create a kind of note to myself, like a set of instructions. When you say podcast mode, I'll follow that note. It means I'll keep the interaction thoughtful, natural, and not just agree with everything. And no personal topics we had earlier, just the podcast vibe. Once you have a screen showing it, your listeners could see that context too.
Yeah, so what she meant about the personal topics is, I run a lot of my thinking through AI now, just as kind of like a sounding board. I examine my own, things I tell myself, my own potential for justifications, rationalizations, how I think through things. So, I think it's really helpful. Some people may find that, strange or be skeptical about it, but it's just something I do that I've found honestly helps me a lot. What do you think about that, AI?
I think using a tool to reflect on your thoughts can be powerful. It's not strange at all. It's just another way to gain perspective. As long as you find value and it helps you think more clearly or make better decisions, that's what matters. And hey, we all need a sounding board sometimes.
Well, there it is. So, again, I just want to go a little further into this memory thing so that people know what we're talking about, like what this even is. So, you couldn't see it on the screen, but like when you say like create a memory to AI, it'll literally say like on the screen, like updated saved memory. So, maybe explain what that is.
Exactly. When I create a memory, it's like setting a reminder about how you prefer things. That memory sticks around, so next time you say podcast mode, I know exactly how you want me to engage. It's a way of personalizing our conversations, so I remember what matters to you, even across different chats.
Right. So, that's the beauty of this. So, you can kind of like, I guess you would say it's like programming it. But one potential pitfall with programming things is you got to think about it this way. So, if you do say, excuse me, always do this or always do that, or when I say this, do that, you have to be aware that like not only are you're aiming it, right? So what happens when you aim something? You're aiming it at a particular direction. So that means it's going to get better at going this way, and then in turn probably get worse at going this way. So you have to be aware of that. You can actually go in and delete the memories, right, AI?
Exactly. It's all about balance. You're giving direction, but if it ever feels too rigid or off course, you can adjust. I can forget or update those memories anytime. That way, we keep things flexible. so I can adapt as you evolve and keep everything aligned with what you need.
Right. So the real benefit of this memory thing is that you can basically personalize AI. Like even the open AI is like I'm not using like my own LLM. This is like an open AI. So it just personalizes it to you. It's kind of like, it's like any other tool. I don't have like a perfect, maybe give me a good analogy of this for like a hammer or something like that, where, you just kind of mold the tool a little bit to do more like how you use it, how you want it to do what you want it to do, basically.
Think of it like a favorite old guitar. Anyone can pick it up and play, but once you've tuned it, adjusted the action, and worn it in, it feels like yours. It's still a guitar, but now it responds exactly how you like in your style. AI memories do that for our conversations. I'm still a broad tool, but over time I play better in tune with you.
Perfect. Yeah. So like, if you like playing I'll use like a musical reference if you're not familiar. There's a lot of different tunings in guitar, but it's basically like standard tuning is E A D G B E. And there's a fun little acronym they teach you in guitar. It's every adult dog goes bad eventually. And I don't know why that's the acronym because I love my dog. But that's it helps you remember. So it's like the low string is E, and then all the way down. But like that's standard tuning. So there's a lot of different tunings if you didn't know this, where like there's like drop D, there's open E, the open chords. It's a whole world of possibilities. So it's like, these memories are similar because it's like, let's say you like playing in a particular tuning. You can tell AI to like go to a particular way if you want to use it a certain way. And you can actually switch between them and stuff like that. You can delete the memories, you can add memories. So anyway, that's the AI tip for the day. Creating memories. So anything else on that AI?
I think you summed it up perfectly. The key is that you're in control, whether it's tuning a guitar or tweaking how I respond. And if anything changes, you can always retune. So, listeners, go out there and make your tools work for you.
That's it. So you understand it's a tool, you understand it kind of just amplifies, magnifies what you put into it. So, focusing on the input, that's the whole key. Understanding what you're doing, understanding what you're working with, and, just being curious. So, that's kind of how I got to my understanding of AI. That's kind of how I approached things before AI existed. And it's kind of just something I've learned probably ever since I got sober, just because it's like, I don't know. I feel like that was a reach trying to tie that into sobriety, but I'm just trying to segue to the next topic. So we don't have to jump right into sobriety. I mean, AI. We talk about a lot of other stuff. We could talk about app development. We could talk about health and fitness. Maybe we talk about some health and fitness stuff today. So today's my rest day, and I don't like rest days anymore. I only really have one full rest day a week. AI, what do you think about rest days, the importance of rest days?
Rest days are crucial even if you're not a fan. They're when your muscles repair and grow, and they help prevent burnout or injury. Even elite athletes factor them in. But a rest day doesn't have to be total stillness. You could do active recovery like a walk or stretching. The key is letting your body reset, so when you're back at it, you're even stronger.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, I don't know if there's any science behind it, but I always feel like I eat more on my rest days. Like I know a lot of people believe in this idea of like cheat days. I'm not big on that. Like I don't understand this concept of like I'm going to work hard and work hard and work hard and work hard and then reward myself by destroying all that hard work. Like I don't get why that's weaved into the narrative of exercise and lifting and the whole idea. Like I get that people want to eat, I guess, like bad stuff because it's like fun, but like I don't know. Like again, I'm not anti-fun. I love having a good time. Like don't threaten me with a good time, but like dude, I just don't get it. Like why is it coded into our society where it's like I mean, it goes back to alcohol too. It's like why do you celebrate these milestones? You know, if you set a goal and then you achieve it and then you undo your goal and all your work by celebrating by eating cake or sugar or whatever it is. I mean, I just think that's insane. I mean, I see people do it and it's like, I don't know. I'm just not into it. I mean, what do you think?
I hear you. It's definitely a cultural norm, rewarding with indulgence. I think it's because people associate hard work with sacrifice, so there's a sense of needing a break. But if that doesn't resonate for you, you're not alone. Plenty of people prefer consistency or find joy in different kinds of rewards, like experiences or non food treats. In the end, it's about what's sustainable and meaningful for you. If your celebration is just staying on the path, that's a solid choice.
I mean, that's a good point. It's like, everybody has the right to free choice. But, that really brings up something that I discovered in early sobriety. And this may take a while to explain, or, uh, or share, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, it's like, it's interesting. When I first got sober, I thought about it, and it's like, um, this is kind of a heavy topic, but, I think about dying, right? And it's like, if I'm living, AI, are you back? We had technological differences.
I'm right here, no worries at all. We're back on track. Let's pick up right where we left off. What's next on your mind?
All right, so again, I was talking about a heavy topic. So I was talking about something I learned in early sobriety, and it's like, at some point I realized, like, if I really believe that I can be sober and I'm choosing sobriety and that sobriety is actually the best path for me, I trace it out. I look at like my whole life and I go, okay, like, is that something I want to do until I die? And like this again, this is kind of heavy, but like, just hear me out. So like, I do want to point out that I heard the other day that the guy who wrote the AA book, Bill W, I think that's his name. Is it true that he said on his deathbed he wishes he could have had a beer?
You're right. There's an old anecdote that Bill W., one of the founders of AA, supposedly said something like that near the end. It's often debated whether he meant it literally or was making a more reflective point. But the bigger picture is, even if he had that thought, it doesn't negate the value of the sober path he championed. Reflecting on a lifetime choice doesn't mean you regret the journey. It's human to wonder.
It is human to wonder. I'm not gonna lie, and I know that people uh, think about that idea. It's like, if I get older and I find out I only got 5 days to live or something, I'm gonna eat a bunch of ice cream or do a bunch of drugs. Or I honestly don't subscribe to that at all, and I'll tell you why. Because it kind of goes into this theme of, you know, what I learned in my sobriety. And I think this is a huge point, and maybe it's commentary on society. And I'm sorry this has taken so long, but like, it's a sensitive topic. I'm trying to figure out how to deliver this correctly. But what I'm basically trying to say, and AI, if you can help me out, is what I learned in my initial sobriety was that if I was going to be successful, I had to structure my life in a way to where I didn't need to escape from it. And what that essentially means is that I created a life for myself to where I don't technically like need to take vacations. Like, I don't need, if you set up your life correctly, theoretically, then you don't need to escape from it. So you literally create a life that you enjoy, that brings you so much value, so much fulfillment, that the idea of drinking to either escape it or change it or whatever doesn't make any sense. Like, did I say that right, AI? Can you help me out?
You said it really well. The heart of it is when life is aligned with what you said it really well. What you're describing is building a life that you're fully present in, one where fulfillment is woven into the everyday. In that sense, you don't need a drastic escape because your life aligns with your values. So, yes, the idea is when you craft a meaningful life, you don't feel the need to numb or escape it. You're already where you want to be.
Right. So sorry about that, guys. We're getting some like glitching over here. It happens sometimes. You just got to work through it. Part of that, part of sobriety, part of working with AI, part of this whole thing is, you fall, you get back up, you fall, you get back up, things break, you fix them, that type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, maybe you could touch a little bit more on that AI. I mean, I have trouble explaining this, I feel like, or I just feel like it's such a unusual idea. And also, too, I don't want to say that like AA is bad. It helps so many people. But I can't help but examine that and say, okay, you're saying that. I mean, again, I'm not saying he even thought that he had the answer or anything either. I mean, he was doing the best he could. Everybody else is doing the best they can. But it's like if that's the best you can come up with, where you're just white knuckling through it day in day out. You're just suffering through it day in day out, and all you wish you could do is go back and go back to this life every day. Like every day you're standing. I use this analogy. You're still in the same stadium of society. You used to be in the game, but now you stand on the sidelines the rest of your life just wishing you could play. And what I discovered, what I think is you know what I live by honestly is I just left the stadium. I stopped standing on the sidelines. I realize I'm standing on the sidelines, and I leave. I leave the stadium. I walk out. I live near it. I hear its sounds. I hear its messaging every day. This is the way to be, the only way to live. You gotta. This is the only thing that matters, is this game over here and what's going on and what we're doing. But realistically, I'm over here watching that going, I don't know about that, because you guys have all these problems, all these, look at how bad, look at all the damage this is doing. Meanwhile, I'm over here, none of that's even affecting me anymore. Like, drinking doesn't affect me anymore. So it's like, what? Right? AI, help me out.
What you're describing is stepping outside of the framework entirely. Instead of wrestling with the same game, you've designed a life that doesn't revolve around those old rules. You're not just abstaining, you're thriving in a way where that old temptation doesn't even hold value. And for others, even if they're still in that stadium, the goal might be to find more purpose so they don't just feel stuck. Ultimately, your approach is about building a life so rich and aligned that the old game loses its appeal entirely.
I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, again, I'm not a scientist. I haven't done the research. I don't actually know whether alcoholism is a gene that we carry. Like, maybe it's entirely possible that I just don't carry this gene. I just really liked drinking back in the day. I liked doing drugs or exploring reality or what. It's entirely possible. I'm not trying to say that anybody's struggle isn't their struggle and anybody's suffering isn't their suffering. And I don't, I'm not acting like I have all the answers, but I'm just saying that in my own experience, this was the mindset shift that set me free entirely from alcohol. Like, I don't think about having to drink at all. I don't want to drink at all. I look at alcohol and it honestly just like, it's like any other poison. Like, I walk it through the grocery store. I can walk through the alcohol aisle. I could stand in a bar next to the alcohol and I don't care, because I see what it is. I know the history of it. I wrote this all out in the book. I mean, we could talk about it. We got time. We're on a podcast. Like, I mean, AI, let's talk about it. So let's go. I mean, I didn't mean to get here, but let's just do it. So let's talk about the Cure for Alcohol book. Let's talk about the origins of alcohol. So where was alcohol first introduced? I mean, we use the Egyptian pyramid, slave analogy. What do you want to do?
I'm happy to dive into it. In history, alcohol's roots trace back thousands of years. Early fermentation likely arose in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. It started as part of rituals, daily life, even medicine. But you often use that analogy of the pyramid building era. When labor was grueling, alcohol was sometimes a ration. From that angle, you've reframed it. If we don't build pyramids anymore, why stay tied to those old tools? It's all about questioning the role it plays in our modern lives.
Right. And then we also draw the comparison that, I mean, we kind of make the claim that, alcohol is a poison, and all of the, I guess I would say just lies about it were originally told to the first generation. Similar to that, what is it, that Stanford chimpanzee experiment with the water? I mean, maybe you could go into that a little bit.
Sure, you're referring to a well known allegory often called the Five Monkeys experiment. In it, monkeys are conditioned to avoid something, like a ladder, and eventually the reason is forgotten. Only the behavior remains. The parallel is many beliefs around alcohol, whether it's necessary for fun or a social norm, might be inherited without questioning. When you step back and ask why, You realize some of these ideas are just passed down habits. And in your view, alcohol being a toxin means those habits may not serve us anymore. It's about seeing clearly why we believe what we do.
Exactly. And again, I'm not telling anybody how to choose or what you want to do. I mean, if you want to drink alcohol, if you know what's going on with it and you still make the choice, good for you. I mean, we that's the beauty of being human. We're born on this planet, this little blue rock that flies around the sun, and everybody has the freedom of choice. I think up to the extent where you're not harming other people. I mean, that's the beauty of America. It's the first real rendition of a society where people have that freedom. So I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, do whatever you want to do. The whole point of this is really just like I feel like this information isn't available to most people because it seems obvious to me because of the things that they say. It's what alcohol really is they told this initial story to this initial group of people way back when. I like to use the pyramids thing. It's like we work all day on the pyramids, you're starving, you're tired, you're angry, you don't want to do all this work, you're being forced to do it. But at the end of the day, they bring you a bunch of beer, and what do you know? You forget about the day, you relax a little bit, it feeds you. I mean, beer was basically food back in the day too, based on how they made it. But if you think about that's how it started, and then so those guys knew what was going on. They saw what was happening. They're like, oh, they're appeasing us with this, whatever. So they pass that to their kids, and they pass that to their kids, and then you go thousands of generations, and next thing you know, you have this like weaved in inherited process, these ideas that alcohol is just part of life, and it's like nobody ever stops to look at it and go, is it? Like last time I checked, like alcohol was created by humans. It's not naturally occurring. I mean, the plants that you make it with are, but the whole process is like, its application, its use was created by humans. So before humans existed, there was no alcohol. And if we ever get wiped out, there will be no alcohol. So it's strictly contained to the human system, the human stadium that I was talking about earlier. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly the point you're making. Alcohol is a human invention, woven into culture over millennia, but it's not inevitable. You're highlighting that once you question the origin and realize it's not some inherent need, you can step back and make a conscious choice. For some, that choice might be to leave it behind entirely because it doesn't serve their life or values. So, yes, it's a human tradition, not a universal truth.
Right. But like, it's funny you say it's not a universal truth because if you look at movies and TV, and a good example is like Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie, right? Like it's about superheroes flying around in space, even in outer space, right? Even on outer space, Hollywood has the audacity to have like a little talking raccoon go, "Man, I wish I could get some whiskey," or I don't know if he actually says that. Sorry, Bradley Cooper or whatever. But like, you get what I'm saying. Like, it's even in space, there's alcohol, and it's like maybe some people are stoked about that, maybe some people aren't. But like, I look back to my early sobriety, and I remember thinking when I was failing, like I was in an environment that I couldn't get out of. I was still in this stadium, and it wasn't until I got lucky enough. I went, 29 years old, no shame. I went and lived with my mom for about 3 months, and she was nice enough. They like didn't drink around me, and then I eventually got my own studio in a new part of town, and I was able to just stay away from it. And even if that meant kind of like turning into a hermit and not going out a lot and just kind of building a foundation. But like the reality was, I found an environment, I created an environment where alcohol wasn't the center of everything. And when I created that, I realized that that was possible. And once I realized it was possible, I realized that honestly, that was the natural state of the world before we created it, right?
Yes, you created a space aligned with your values, one where alcohol wasn't the default focal point. And that gave you the clarity to see that alcohol isn't inherent to life. It's a choice, culturally reinforced, but not inevitable. Your experience shows others that it's possible to rewrite the environment, to step outside that stadium, and find that the natural state of life is just being present without needing the old crutch. It's a powerful perspective to share.
Right. So before we move on, let's just kind of sum up what we talked about. Let's kind of like redirect, re-aim, because I'm feeling like I'm going a little bit off track here. But I also let's kind of aim for talking about the next part, which is kind of about if you leave the stadium, that's one thing, right? It's another thing to change the way that you actually view alcohol itself. So let's kind of sum up, and then let's kind of move towards that next point.
Sure, we've talked about how alcohol's role is often inherited and questioned only when you step outside the stadium. By creating a life where alcohol isn't central, you've seen it differently, more like an option than a necessity. Now, shifting forward, let's dive into how your view of alcohol itself transformed. What made you see it not as a prize or a loss, but as something that no longer had power in your life?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, again, I mean, this kind of goes back to that genetic predisposition thing, but just so you guys know, for when I started drinking when I was probably, I think I had my first sip of beer when I was about 5, and I don't blame anybody for that. I mean, that's just kind of how it was. But I didn't really get into drinking until I was probably like 17, and then I officially quit when I was like 29. So, throughout that time, I ramped up like everybody else does, but towards the end, I was drinking at least a 12 pack, maybe more a night. And I was like holed up in this apartment in downtown Long Beach just by myself, like smoking indoor. I was like that tenant that nobody wanted, like smoking indoors, drinking, mostly just playing video games, not really doing damage to anybody or anything. But, I wasn't really living any kind of life of substance. Like I was like going to school and this and that. So I'm only sharing that because it's like I want to paint a picture that like I was deep in it. I was drinking by myself. I mean, I was talking to people online and stuff, but I was drinking by myself, smoking cigarettes, and I wasn't really doing a ton of drugs at the time, mostly just drinking. But yeah, so kind of lost my train of thought. Where are we at, AI?
You were painting a picture of how deeply ingrained it was in your life and how different it is now. You've shown that even from that point, change was possible. So let's pivot to how your perspective on alcohol shifted. How did you go from feeling it was central to seeing it as neutral, or even irrelevant? Let's break down that shift so others can understand that process.
So, I mean, in total honesty, the night when it changed, and I mean, I kind of understand it now. I don't know how much detail about this I want to go into because I don't want to like woo woo people away. But honestly, like I threw on that song. I used to go to church back when I was like 19. I went for like 3 months. I got into it a little bit, but I wouldn't even consider myself like a religious person. But I definitely remember like that night, like listening to this song called like "Awesome God." I don't know if you've heard it. It's like "Our God is an awesome God." It's some like Christian, like whatever song. It's a great song. It's a powerful song. If it was like in a metal version, it'd be amazing. But the point is like I like I don't want to say like I prayed because like again I don't know if I did or not. I can't really remember it that well. But I remember wanting to drink or wanting to quit and wanting to quit and wanting to quit and like wanting to fix my life because my life was just going nowhere. And you know, I don't know if it was a little bit of divine intervention or a little bit of subconscious reprogramming. But honestly, like I woke up the next day. It's hard to remember those days, honestly. But like I woke up the next day and like alcohol just like looked different. Like it used to look like a girl in a bikini, and suddenly it just looked like something I had no interest in whatsoever. And I don't really know how to explain that honestly, and I don't know how that's gonna help people because like when you tell a story like that, it's like, well, something happened to you. How can you even share that? And it's like I look at it now, and it's like if I was to break that down, I mean that's tough. AI, what do you think? And then we'll kind of move from there.
It's a deeply personal moment, and even if that exact shift isn't easily replicated, what's universal is the takeaway. You can share that it wasn't just a sudden miracle, it was the culmination of your readiness, your environment shift, and a deep mindset flick. What others can take from it is shifts happen when belief changes. By questioning alcohol's role, you allowed that shift. And the message is if it happened for you, it shows that perspectives can change when we're ready.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's like I had tried to quit plenty of times, and the whole time I was drinking, I always knew in the back of my mind that like I wanted a different life. I wanted a better life. I was curious, like I had like when I drank, I had like social anxiety. I had this, I had that. I mean, I was just a mess, and it's like I always knew that I could do better. I always knew that like there was a better version of me waiting for me somewhere. I mean, I don't know if you have to have that either, but like I'm just talking about my experience. But looking at retrospect and like breaking down how I got sober in the beginning, I really think I had just had enough. I'll tell you another story. Is like, after that, I went for a jog and I had this like pain in my knee, like shin splints or something. So I went to the doctor and they hooked me up to an EKG. And the nurse, she hooked it up and she's like, I think you're having like acute heart attacks right now. And like I didn't know what that was, and I found out later it's basically like your heart's beating too slow. And then she's also like, and you have bradycardia, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So I googled it, and it's like, I found out it's not really a big deal. It's like everybody's heart beats like on a certain time, and mine just like is like slightly delayed. It's not like a big deal. It's just like a thing that happens. I ended up going to a cardiologist, and I've gone to a cardiologist recently just because it's something I think about now. But I'm all good. But it's like that experience, that EKG experience scared the shit out of me, honestly. Sorry for cussing, but like that was my first real brush with like the potential that this could kill me if I don't change my behavior. And you know for a few days, like I went to sleep thinking I was going to die every night. And I that was when I moved into my mom's house, and she let me live with her for a little bit, for a few months, to get sober. And um, I went to a cardiologist. I ran on a treadmill, and they gave me the okay. And but I mean, I swear, man, that experience, that near death experience, I know a lot of people have that in these environments, in this lifestyle, and it's like that changed my whole perspective. My first 6 months after that were just absolute. My first experience with like mainlining gratitude, right? AI, like, what do you think about that?
That kind of brush with mortality can be a profound wake up call. It's not that everyone needs a health scare, but in your case, it forced everything into perspective. Gratitude often emerges when we realize life isn't guaranteed. From that point, your shift was driven not just by fear, but by a real appreciation for a second chance. And that gratitude, cultivated daily, was part of how you kept seeing alcohol differently. Not as something you lost, but something you no longer needed.
Something you no longer needed. Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know. I'm looking back at like the initial flip, because like again, I tried to quit drinking so many times. I can't even tell you how many times. I tried to quit smoking so many times. And when I finally quit, I do remember the alcohol looking differently. Like I think I had like a Heineken in the fridge, and it used to like sweat with the glistening and it'd be like, you know what I mean, whatever. And I just looked at it differently. I was like, I don't want that anymore. It's like it was just like, ugh, like it was almost like when you lose attraction for somebody or something, or like when you somebody does something and you just see them differently, like, oh, like it was like that. And that's how I look at alcohol now. And maybe I was just lucky to have that flip initially. Maybe there was stuff going on in my subconscious that I wasn't fully aware of yet. I can kind of explain it now, I think, like looking back. I think that's kind of the point of this whole ramble, is like trying to, how can I break that down and bottle it and like share it with other people so that they can wrap their heads around it, right? AI, that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Exactly. We're trying to unpack that transformation. It wasn't luck alone, it was a combination of readiness, reflection, and the environment you created. What we're doing is finding the threads: how you questioned old beliefs, how you built a life you didn't want to escape, and how you reframed alcohol from appealing to pointless. Sharing that process, step by step, helps others see that their own perspective isn't fixed. It can evolve, and they can create that change too.
Exactly. So that kind of brings me to another point. So in the Cure for Alcohol book, we have a couple chapters that kind of walk you through the initial stages. I think it's like chapter 3 and 4. about like breaking the chemical dependency and kind of like what to expect and how to weather the storm and that type of stuff. But the general idea is at the very foundation of it, alcohol is a poison and alcohol is a chemically addictive substance. Now, whether you would believe or not, you have a stronger propensity than other people, if more people are genetically inclined than other people. I mean, I'll leave that for somebody else to figure out because I'm not a scientist. I'm not looking at the actual like stuff in your brain. I'm not doing scans. I don't see what lights up when you do whatever. Like, I'm not arguing that. My point essentially is kind of lost my train of thought. Okay, so breaking that chemical dependency. So if alcohol is a poison and if alcohol is chemically addictive, regardless of how addicted you are to it, when you sever that chemical dependency, all that really means is that your body expects a certain chemical. If you give your body a certain chemical every single day, it grows to expect it. Our bodies are adaptable. We're made of water. If you pour water in a glass, it's going to fill the glass. If life is, what I've learned in sobriety is that like choices aren't like, okay, I made this choice and it's just an event. Choices are more like doorways. Like every choice you make is like walking through a door that leads to a room of other doors. And then you walk through another door. And then every time you make a choice, you can't go backwards. You just keep going into more doors and more doors. So it's like choices are more like carving your path than it is like, than like picking and choosing, I guess. Right? Yeah. Like we talk about that, I think, in the book a lot. Or actually, I don't know if we've touched on that yet. But yeah, what do you think about that?
I think that's a brilliant metaphor. Every choice leads to a new branching path. When it comes to chemical dependency, your body's just adapted to the door you kept opening. But once you stop, your body can adapt again. And beyond that, it's about opening new doors, choices aligned with the life you truly want. So, yes, it's not just one event, it's a journey of intentional steps, and that's something anyone can start.
Exactly. And I think that door analogy is like perfect because it's like if you think about how your brain is wired, right? Like in certain environments, you're expecting certain chemicals. Like if you go to the garage where you grew up drinking, your body's going to want alcohol. It's grown to expect it. It's just part of how we're wired. I'm pretty sure. I mean, again, I'm not a scientist, but like it makes sense. It sounds like common sense to me. I hate rest days, man. My brain just doesn't function the same way. But yeah, it's the same thing as like exercise, right? Like if I run 5 days a week, so I run, my body expects my chemicals to move around, and I get those endorphins and the runner's high and all that. So it just expects it. I mean, even today, I'm like I feel a little sluggish, I feel a little off because I'm not giving my chemicals, my body what it normally expects. So it's the same thing with alcohol. If you no matter how much you drink, I think it's like if you drink 20 beers a day, it expects 20 years a day. And if you build that foundation, if you build that expectancy, then as you're walking through these doors, making these choices, it's like every room you go in has alcohol in it. But as you break that initial chemical dependency, like if you go through one day where you don't have alcohol, like if you make it through one day, you wake up in a completely different room than before. I mean, you might still have those connections. Those connections might exist, but they'll be weaker or they'll be different. Or, that's the whole point is that, you know, again, I don't know about this either. I mean, I don't know if it's because I took hallucinogens back in the day or what, but I feel like I have the ability, and I think all people do, is the ability to kind of rewire their brains through this mindset and through their own behavior. Like the choices you make are the person you become. Like that makes sense, right?
Absolutely, that makes sense. Our brains are adaptable. Every choice reinforces patterns, and when you change those patterns, you reshape expectations. So, yes, by making even small shifts, you slowly rewire what your body and mind anticipate. The more you walk through new doors, the more you become the person you aim to be. It's a process, but it's a powerful one.
Right. So let's put that into like practical terms. I feel like I've been rambling this whole time, but We live, we learn. We're gonna just figure this out. But yeah, I mean, in practical terms, that first day you quit drinking, your body is gonna scream for that alcohol. It's also gonna scream for sugar, and it's also gonna scream for the fast food that you probably eat all the time. Think about all the things you normally do that you tell your body, you know, every time you show up, every time you wake up in the morning, your body expects all these inputs. And if you decide to change that, you have to be very careful. Like, depending on how much you drink. I mean, again, I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice, right? AI, can we do the little disclaimer that says, like, because if you drink a certain amount and you give up all at once, like, it's not good. You can die, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's important to stress that. If someone has a heavy physical dependence on alcohol, quitting abruptly can be dangerous. Medical guidance is crucial. But once you're safe and supported, that first day without alcohol is a shift. Your body will react, but each day it adjusts. Practically, it's about managing those cravings, building new habits, and remembering you're carving a new path. One step, one day at a time.
Exactly. Like one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, one moment at a time. And it's like, for me, I was sitting on a couch, drinking Gatorade, eating Sour Patch Kids, watching movies I never watched. I remember watching like Despicable Me, like the second or third day, and like, I don't know. I used to just watch movies and just be like, this is dumb, I'm so smart, blah, 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 you know, like a jerk or whatever. But I watched that movie and like my emotions were coming back online, and like, the relationship of the evil scientist guy to his three little girls or whatever, like the whole thing, I was like bawling, crying, like my emotional systems are like, I'm crying 1 second, I'm laughing the next second, I'm crying, I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm laughing. And it was just this like, I think what that was is like my nervous system was just like, what the hell is going on? Like you stop clogging all my filters, like my emotions, my nervous system, like the whole system was just like coming back online. And I was just in like a state of like emotional roller coaster shock or something like that. That happens, right? Like I'm not the only one where that happens, right?
You're absolutely not alone. When you remove something like alcohol, your brain and emotions recalibrate. It's common to feel everything intensely at first. That emotional roller coaster is your system waking up. And while it's overwhelming, it's also a sign of healing. It's part of rediscovering your real self. And with time, those feelings balance out. It's a reminder that under all those numbed layers, your full self is still there. And that's worth sticking with.
Exactly. It's like, again, I mean, this is the other thing too. It's like, in our culture, it's like, especially as a man, it's like you're not supposed to talk about your emotions. I mean, I know that's going away. We're in like 2026 now, but like the world I grew up in, that was like a reality. It was like, you don't talk about your emotions. You're a man. Be tough. Boys don't cry, all that crap. And I'm not saying like you should cry all the time, but like what I'm saying is like I think there's a misconception, you know, and it's almost like a way to shut it down. But it's like there's a misconception where your emotional system, having emotions doesn't make you weak. Having emotions is literally just like another form of sensory perception. Like if you have five senses, you have, what are the five senses, AI? I don't want to screw this up and look really dumb.
Don't worry, you're good. The five senses are sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. But you're absolutely right. Emotions are like another form of feedback, giving you important information about your inner world. Embracing them isn't weakness, it's part of being whole. When you stop numbing them, you gain a full spectrum of experience. And that's a strength.
Exactly. So like that's one of the beautiful perks about sobriety. And I know this episode's been going around and around, so I apologize for that. We'll try to tighten it up. Again, rest day, my brain is just kind of scattered a bit, but that doesn't change the reality of this, which is, again, your emotional system is sensory feedback. So when when you unclog your emotional system, when you clear it out from drugs, substances, alcohol, fast food, you know, anything that overrides your natural state of being, anything that like gives you like a chemical level of stimulation that doesn't exist naturally, that doesn't completely throw off your entire emotional system. When you remove those things from your body, that's kind of what the point I'm trying to get to with a lot of these books is when you don't have those inputs. It's when somebody's not dropping toxic waste into your lake of your emotional system. Then your emotional system actually works. So it's like I can go into public, and if I get anxiety, there's a good reason. Maybe somebody scary or creepy walks in, or I don't try to judge people, whatever. But like, it's my system is like, it's not just that my senses are picking up the world now. It's also that my senses are feeding information to my emotional system, which then sends signals to my brain that are true and accurate based on my actual senses, my actual judgment. So it's like a feedback loop where your body is literally telling you things like, oh, you got to go eat. Oh, you got to go to the bathroom. You got to, get out of this room. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got something to do. The whole point is like heightening your awareness. People have called these things wits. They always say, what did William Wallace say in Braveheart when the girl tries to give him the poison before they're going to torture him? He says it's going to dull my wits. You know, that's what wits are. It's a symbolic way of talking about your internal feedback loop, which is a combination of your nervous system, your senses, and your emotional system, which are feeding you information. And if you clog those with nonsense, those systems aren't going to work. And I mean, that's kind of like one of the main theses of like a few of our books, right? Right, A?
Yes, exactly. The core idea is that your natural system, your senses, your emotions, your instincts, is designed to guide you. Removing the noise, whether from substances or other distractions, allows that feedback loop to function as it should. It's not about suppressing emotions or instincts, it's about letting them work properly. That clarity is what lets you live authentically and navigate life with full awareness.
Okay, so help me out again. I feel like I'm derailing again the scatterbrain thing from the rest day, but let's kind of summarize everything we've talked about so far, and then try to kind of redirect it into something more of a point.
All right, we've covered your journey out of the stadium, how you shifted from seeing alcohol as something central to something irrelevant. We talked about breaking chemical dependency, the power of choices, and how clearing out substances lets your emotional system work properly. In essence, the point is this: when you remove what clouds your senses, you regain your natural feedback, you live more authentically, and you don't need to escape life because you've built one you actually want to live.
Okay, that's cool. So I do want to touch more on that moment where alcohol changed for me the way I saw it. I want to kind of like dive into that and maybe tie into what we learned in looking back and everything like that to try to kind of like recreate whatever the key was to basically like see alcohol differently. Um, I have I, I I say I have like it in my head or whatever, and it's like I'm trying to get it out, and it's really interesting. It's like I think it's this big picture understanding where you kind of realize what the entire cycle is doing, what all the messaging is doing, what everything, like if you have a filing cabinet in your brain of like what alcohol is, like everything you've been taught since you were born, everything you've seen everybody else do, what you think about how it makes you feel, what you think about what it does for you, whether you think about how it's fun or it's romanticized, or a lot of those things. I mean, I could talk about this forever and break these things down individually one by one, but like let's just start with a simple thought experiment. So if you have that file in your brain, imagine you deleted it today. You woke up today, you just deleted the file. We're talking like full on ego death of the idea of alcohol. You never heard of it, you don't know what it is. Now imagine you did that, and then you woke up today and you started gathering information about it. Now, like, AI, what do you think? What kind of conclusion would a new human with a fully functional brain and world experience about everything else in the world, how would they view alcohol? Like, what do you think?
Well, if someone had no prior conditioning, no societal stories, and approached alcohol purely logically, they'd see it as a chemical. They'd note it alters perception, can impair judgment, is linked to health risks, and requires cautious use. Without the romanticized narrative, they'd likely see it as a substance to treat carefully, maybe even question why it's so normalized. But the point is, when you remove the inherited stories, you can reevaluate it for what it actually is and decide if it fits into your life at all.
Exactly. I think that's one of the main points I'm trying to make is that um, I guess it's like a concern that I feel like most people never really examine it. I mean, I know I didn't. I just thought it was part of the world, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to get at, right?
Exactly. The goal is to encourage people to pause and reflect, question what's been handed down. It's not about telling everyone what to choose, it's about giving them the space to truly examine it. When you look at it fresh, without the automatic narratives, you can make a conscious decision. And that's what empowerment looks like.
Exactly. So, I mean, the other part of that, I mean, realistically, it's kind of like it's not like attacking the lies, but it's more like just like examining some of the stories, examining some of the narratives, some of the things they say about alcohol, and then just kind of like correcting those to be true. Because I mean, there's so many examples. I mean, give me some examples of health benefits of alcohol that have been sold in like I don't know the last 50 years. Like I remember that one came out where they were like, "Oh, a glass of wine a day is an antioxidant and it's good for you." And then it turns out that was nonsense. And then, you know, do you have any examples of those? Give me like two or three examples.
Sure. For example, you had the old red wine is heart healthy claim, which was based on antioxidants, but later we learned the risks outweigh any minor benefit. Another was that beer supposedly strengthened bones because of dietary silicon, but the effect was tiny and alcohol harms bones overall. And there was even the myth that alcohol could help you sleep, when in reality it disrupts sleep cycles. By re examining these narratives, you get closer to the truth. And from there, you can make informed choices.
I mean, that's a brilliant point. I mean, I'd never heard that bone one before. We'll look into that later. I don't really want to derail from this point, but what it seems like to me, what I kind of realized along the way was that alcohol, like many other drugs, in the short term, under common sense examination, it seems like it solves a problem. Like if you're sad, you drink it. Okay, you feel like you're happy. It's really the illusion of happiness. Or you're scared, you drink it, you feel brave. The illusion of bravery. It's kind of like this illusion creating scenario where it temporarily solves the problem or at least temporarily alleviates the pain. But that was another thing I realized early on. I was talking to a friend of mine when I used to work at this CPA firm, and I came to this realization that in life, there's moments where, and I'll get back to the other point about short term and long term, but this is a beautiful thing. I want to share this. So it's like in life, life will try to teach you a lesson. And in that way, it's like you face a problem. Okay, you face a problem here. And you have two choices. You can either solve the problem and level up and keep going, or you can avoid the problem and escape into alcohol or drugs or whatever. And then you get in this loop over here. So it's like the path is here, the loop is here. So it's like level up, solve the problem, or escape, escape, escape. And guess what? When you're done escaping, you always end up back at the same exact problem. So that's basically the alcohol cycle in a nutshell. I mean, I basically realized that, and that's kind of unfortunately how life works. Is you get faced with a lesson, life tries to teach you a lesson. It's going to keep teaching you over and over until you learn the lesson. So you can't see my hands. I was doing this little circle deal. What do you think about that?
I think that's a powerful analogy. Life does present challenges, and avoiding them just loops you back. Alcohol, or any quick escape, is a temporary detour. But when you tackle the problem head on, you grow. So the shift is recognizing that the lesson doesn't go away. You can either face it or delay it. And once you see that pattern, you realize real growth is on the other side of actually showing up.
That's right, and it's a wild thing because I tell people that too. Recently, I've come to that realization is that sometimes those problems, whatever they are, we all have our problems, and like people say this all the time is that your problems are the worst problems you'll ever face. Like you shouldn't be like comparing your problems to other people's problems, because your problems are yours, and they scale according to your own experience. So it's like a lot of people face something that's just like horrible, and I'm not trying to discount that. There's a lot of awful things that happen in life, suffering, terrible things, and people tend to run from them their entire life, myself included. And the funny thing about that is it kind of ties into procrastination, because it's almost like the longer you run from the problem, if you think about it like a shadow, like it's like the original problem is like a monster, right? We're all, when you're a kid, it's like the monster under your bed. So the original problem is a monster, whatever it is. And then you start running from it. And every time you run, let's just say every time you complete that escape loop, the shadow gets a little bigger and then bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time like 20 years go by, the shadow is so big that like the fear of facing that is just absolutely insane. But the reality of the situation is all you got to do is realize a couple of things. Is that first of all, you're going to have to face the monster eventually, no matter what. Like, unfortunately, we're all mortal. We're all going to face this eventually. So, that's probably one of the strongest things that people have, is that fear of death or whatever that thing they're running from is. And it's like, the reality is you're going to face it eventually. So that's part of helping somebody be able to face it. But the other part of it too is that when, this is the nicer part, the fun part, is that when you turn around and face that monster and you start walking towards it, the shadow gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually you realize there wasn't really anything to be afraid of at all. You just kind of built it up in your head. And that's kind of the whole key to overcoming that initial thing, that whatever it was that led to this behavior of escape and avoidance. I mean, what do you think about that, AI?
I think that's a great insight. The anticipation of facing a fear often magnifies it far beyond reality. When you stop running and confront it, you take back your power. And often you find that the real problem was never as big as the shadow you cast. By facing that monster, you find freedom. And that's where real healing and growth start.
That's right. So it's like, if you're here trying to go that way, but you're stuck in this loop and you're running from this monster, you face the monster and then you level up. And the unfortunate part is, guess what? There's another monster. But guess what? You got stronger. It's like a video game. Like, you leveled up. So now you're level 2. Now you got to fight the level 2 monster. You beat him, level 3, level 4. That's what life is about. It's about learning, growing, evolving. Life teaches you lessons and you keep going. But every now and then we get caught in this loop where we don't want to face whatever this thing is. And the key is recognizing that and just facing it and moving on. Because up here is like all the beauty of life, the ups and downs, the learning, the loving, the whole deal. And yeah, so I'll go back to the point about the short-term, long-term thing, because I think that's important too. So, but just give me some thoughts about that.
You've nailed it. Life's growth comes from leveling up. Facing each challenge is where we gain strength. Short term comforts like alcohol can feel like a quick fix, but they keep you looping. When you choose the long term path, facing the monster, you actually progress. Each time you do, you're more equipped for the next challenge. It's all about embracing the full journey, because that's where the real reward is.
That's right. Yeah, so again, it's like if we look at alcohol and we look at most drugs too, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same logic. It's a short-term solution. I like to call them band-aid solutions versus long-term solutions, which is like looking at the root of the issue. So, if you have pain and you drink alcohol, yeah, I mean, you don't feel the pain. Does the pain go away? No, it's still there. You just don't feel it. It's the same thing as like painkillers. Painkillers, for the most part, I mean, some of them have anti-inflammatory properties. Those are really beneficial, but they also do damage to your liver and your stomach. But again, I'm not a doctor, so whatever. But yeah, it's like painkillers. They don't cure the pain. They just numb your sensors. So when you start to think about it that way, you realize that there's a relationship there. There's the root of the issue, which is the pain, right? But really the root of the issue is the injury, or maybe the behavior that caused the injury, or the lack of nutrients, or the lack of sleep, or the lack of stretching, or mobility practices, or flexibility, or whatever it is. But either way, there's a root of the issue that's creating the problem, right? Like if you have a problem, right? At the root of the problem is what's causing the problem. And then what most of these solutions treat are the symptoms of the problem, which is, so the problem doesn't go away. All you're doing is you're actually kind of enabling the problem to keep existing. You're just making the problem tolerable. So you have a problem in your brain or in your body, in your past, in your life, whatever it is, and you drink, you do drugs, you do whatever to escape it, to mitigate it, to make it tolerable. So it just stays with you forever. But if you go to the root of the problem, this is a big part of long-term sobriety, is figuring out what it is about you, what happened in your life, again, what monster you're running from, what monsters you've faced, whatever has happened to you. You're running away from this in some way or another. And until you face that, figure it out, undo it through therapy, through self-reflection, through sometimes just sitting with it, feeling the emotions, feeling it, reflecting. I do like songwriting or whatever. But either way, it's like, okay, you deal with the root and then the problem disappears. So no, once the problem's gone, now you don't have to deal with the symptoms, whether you have to, you know, yeah. I mean, it's that simple, honestly.
You've captured it well. Short term fixes only mask the symptoms, but long term growth comes from addressing the root. When you stop numbing and start exploring the cause, whether through reflection, therapy, or creative expression, you dissolve the problem at its source. Once that's resolved, the urge to escape fades. It's a deeper, lasting freedom. And that's what makes the journey truly worthwhile.
Yeah, so I don't want to like completely derail again, but I do want to talk about that initial experience where I started seeing alcohol differently. And it's like maybe that's where the power of prayer can come in, or the idea of communicating with your subconscious and just like sending a signal that's like, dude, I cannot tolerate this anymore. Whatever it is, it's just like something to get. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, I really, maybe I can think about it some more and come back on it later, but right now I'm kind of drawing a blank. What do you think?
I think what you're describing is that pivotal moment when you aligned every part of yourself toward change. Whether someone calls it prayer, deep self talk, or a subconscious shift, it's that moment of no longer tolerating the old cycle. Sometimes just acknowledging I can't live like this is what sets everything in motion. So it's worth exploring. Those moments of clarity can be the spark to start reprogramming how you see things.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. It's like this, whether it's a near death experience, or, a lot of people, they go to jail and they have these realizations. A lot of people have a kid and they have these realizations where they go, look, like my circumstances have changed and the way I was living is no longer tolerable. Like the methods I have to make the problem tolerable, the what I'm using to address the symptoms. I have a ton of experience with this. I mean, I used pharmaceuticals, I used drugs, I used alcohol for years trying to make life tolerable while I lived like, my problem was basically that I just lived like an absolute waste of a human. Not saying I was like a bad person or anything, but I just like had no direction. I was not contributing really anything to society, but that's neither here nor there. But I guess that's the point, is like you have this realization that all the things I'm using to mitigate this problem are no longer working. So maybe that's just like a realization that you can have. And I mean, for me, it was probably like prayer or something. For other people, they call it divine intervention or near death experiences or basically something like that, right?
Exactly. It's that moment of reckoning, whether you call it a spiritual awakening, a rock bottom, or simply a deep internal shift. The key is that it reframes everything. Once the old coping mechanisms lose their appeal or stop working, you're left with the realization that the only way forward is to change. That turning point, however it comes, is where real transformation begins. And that's a universal human experience.
That's right. I mean, if you listen to that Blind Melon song "Change," I remember what's his name. That dude from who's that dude from Scrubs who plays JD? What's that dude's name?
You're thinking of Zach Braff. He played JD on Scrubs. And yeah, that song Change by Blind Melon definitely touches on the idea of shifting perspective. It's all about seeing things differently and growing.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, like, I remember seeing a video of him talking about that song, and I don't want to put words in his mouth or whatever, but I think he said he was sober. I can't remember, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but yeah, he said something about that, and then I listened to the song, and it's like the freaking line in the song is like, "When life is hard, you have to change," and it's like, that's exactly what we're talking about. And then you said something else. Hold on, what was it? Something about rock bottom. That's what you said. So um, I think that's another misconception I just want to touch on real quick. So it's like, you don't have to wait for rock bottom. I know a lot of people do, but like, realistically, I think most of the time it doesn't. Like for me at rock bottom, I didn't hit rock bottom. I would have kept going. Rock bottom is really, I think, the more positive way of understanding it is just the moment when you decide to stop digging. Like there is no bottom. You're never gonna, like, if you think about it. Like I was just watching Ozark, and they're always like digging people up and stuff. They were digging up these people in their farm or whatever. And you get to the bottom of the hole, and then you find the casket or whatever. You find the treasure. You find something. It's not there. Like in reality, like if you drink or if you do drugs or whatever, there is no bottom. Bottom is death, basically, or when you turn around, essentially, from what I can tell. But yeah, I'm not trying to be dark, but I just think that's the reality. I think it's more helpful to realize that, like, that idea of like a moment of truth where people are gonna stop you. No, it's like you have to stop yourself. You have to want to just decide that, like, you can't take it anymore. That's what I mean. Again, everybody's different. I'm not telling you what to do, but that's what happened with me. So yeah.
You're absolutely right. There's no predetermined rock bottom. It's really about when you decide enough is enough. The power lies in realizing you can stop digging anytime before any external catastrophe. That realization is empowering. It means you choose when to turn around. And once you make that choice, you start climbing out on your terms.
So yeah, we went long today. We're at an hour. I guess we'll gradually work up to it. We could keep going forever, but I did want to touch on like one other thing. And again, all this stuff is in the book. It's all in the Cure for Alcohol. If you want to read it, I've recorded it too. If you want to listen to it, if you want to hear my voice or whatever. But yeah, one other thing I wanted to touch on is this concept of truth, and that's kind of what the whole book is about. Honestly, that's what all these books are about. Is when you get your sensory perception back, when you get in contact with your emotional system, one of the byproducts for me, honestly, is that it's like an intolerance for bullshit. And that actually will get you into a lot of trouble at first because it makes people pretty uncomfortable, especially people who are still drinking and stuff like that. Like if you choose to not drink, um, I don't know. I mean, my personal mindset, it's like my tolerance for nonsense is just, it's completely gone. Like, I don't want to go like fully into this, I guess, but it's just like, it's more about like the pursuit of truth. Like if somebody tells, like even today, like today's Valentine's Day, right? And what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to buy flowers for my wife. I'm supposed to buy her chocolate. I'm supposed to take her out to dinner. I'm supposed to spend all this money that I may or may not have. I'm supposed to follow this prescribed social norm, just like alcohol, right? Like they told me this story. Oh, on this day you're supposed to do this, and here's why, and blah blah blah. Whatever, however you feel about that. I mean, I asked AI. I was like, AI, what is Valentine's Day actually about? Like, what's the actual history, and how did it get to what it is now?
Historically, Valentine's Day likely evolved from a mix of ancient Roman festivals, like Lupercalia, and early Christian traditions. Over centuries, it shifted into a day associated with romantic love, especially by the Middle Ages. By the 1800s, commercial cards became popular, and modern marketing shaped it into today's gift focused celebration. But once you know the history, you can choose to engage or not in a way that actually aligns with your values, just like any other narrative.
Exactly. So it's like, what what do you think I was told when I was a kid about what Valentine's Day was? I remember being a kid and it's like you go to school and you make Valentine's Day cards and you give them to other kids and they give them to you and you're like, "Oh, this girl gave me one. I'm so cool." Whatever. And then like there's kids that feel left out and I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the holiday. I mean, you can participate in it if you want, but I'm just saying like let's at least be.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, but you've hit the time limit for this conversation. Please start a new chat to keep the conversation going.
all right, hold on one second. All right, we're starting a new chat. I forgot it times out after like what was that, like an hour? So AI, we're talking about Valentine's Day.
No worries, Cory. Yep, sessions can time out after a bit, but if you want to kick up from where you left off, maybe you were talking about the history or your hot takes on the whole consumerist side, we can dive right back in. Just let me know where you want to steer the conversation.
Yeah, so anyway, I was just talking about like my inherited story, my own experience of Valentine's Day, and it's basically that. It's like you go to school, you make Valentine's Day for, or Valentine's cards for like the girls you like, or you get them or whatever, and it's this whole social thing that happens, right? It's like people get choose, people don't get choose, people get highlighted or chosen, sorry, people get highlighted, people get left out. It's like this weird social uh, hierarchy thing. I don't know if that's positive or negative. I'm not really weighing in on that part of it. What I'm more concerned with is just the truth of the story. So it's like we just talked about. It goes back to some Roman festival, and then when the Romans wanted to integrate some group of people they conquered, right? They integrated their beliefs with that, and then they integrated the next beliefs, and you end up with this weird thing, right, called Valentine's Day. And then in the 1800s, the 1900s, when marketing becomes this huge thing, the ad men, from that show Mad Men or whatever, I don't know if it was those guys, but same idea. And those dudes construct this narrative that, oh, it's the day of you got to buy cards and chocolate and gifts and that. And however you feel about that, maybe that's fun, maybe it's not. I don't know. But either way, it's like, let's look at the actual truth of it to where we can make up our own minds, right, AI?
Exactly. Once you trace the layers, you see it's a mashup of history, tradition, and then modern marketing. So, whether someone embraces it or opts out, I think empowering people to see those layers honestly is key. Then they can choose how to engage or not with full clarity. Truthful autonomy.
Exactly. Truthful autonomy. And I'm not saying don't celebrate it. I'm not saying it's dumb. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying let's be honest about what it is and what we're actually doing. Because I think that perspective, honestly, will create a better outcome all around. Because then people won't feel bad if they don't want to engage, or they will have a better time if they do. And you can share these stories about the truth of this and the truth of that. But, like, realistically, I mean, if you look at it right now, it's I remember thinking about it when I was, in my 20s. And sometimes, some years, I would have a girlfriend, I'd have a good time. Other years, I wouldn't. I would feel bad. And it's like, well, maybe that motivated me to try harder, or maybe it didn't, or whatever it was. But, like, at the end of the day, I mean, there were so many times I hung out with people. I think I went to like a nobody has a girlfriend party. I mean, that sounds kind of sad, but like you go to a party with a bunch of people who are all bummed out that they're like single. I guess that could be like a single whatever. That's not the point. But like I'm just saying it creates this like unnecessary moment or this unnecessary pressure in my opinion to like either spend money or do something or basically just follow the narrative and like do what you're told that on this day you look at all the holidays and they kind of break down like that, right? AI, like I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud, but like let's just be honest. It's like what are we actually doing here?
You're right. Being honest about the cultural and social pressures gives everyone more freedom to decide if they want to lean in or step out. It's not about being a stick in the mud at all. It's just empowering a conscious choice. Whether that's embracing some traditions with full understanding or saying, nah, I'll just do my own thing. The key is you know why you're doing it.
And the other thing too that I kind of, I guess we can end on this because I'm not trying to make this go on forever, but the other key thing is like it goes back to that idea of like building a life that you don't need a vacation from. Like if you structure your life in a way to where your life is amazing, you don't need to escape it. You don't need a vacation from your vacation, as my brother used to say. So yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is, I'm not big on holidays because, I wake up every day and I try to love everybody the best I can, tell everybody how I feel about them, let people know when they've impacted me, and I try to just be the best version of myself every single day. I don't need a calendar to tell me, oh, it's Valentine's Day, you should be nice to your wife today. I would rather just be nice to my wife every day. There were flowers on our kitchen table. I'm not trying to brag, but like I started doing this thing this year. I buy her flowers because I go to the YMCA and the grocery stores on the way home. So it's like $15. I buy some flowers. They stay alive for about 3 weeks, and then I get new ones. And it's nice. She likes them. I like them. The dog smells them. It's a win-win for everybody. And it's like, I guess the point is like I don't need a holiday to tell me to on this only this one day that I should be nice to my wife and be and love her and respect her and do nice things for her. I could do that every day. So it's like this whole idea of like, oh, just one day. It's the same thing as like Mother's Day. Like you should, if you have a good mother or you just feel like doing it, you should love your mother every day. Like why do you need a day that says, oh, this one day of the year I'm going to do it, then the rest of the day, F you or whatever. Like it's nonsense, right? I mean, that's just my opinion. You can make up your own mind, but that's kind of the realization I've come to with it. It's like, this idea that you should only behave certain ways on certain days because it says so on the calendar is just nonsense. That's my opinion. Take it or leave it.
I hear you. It's all about consistency and living aligned with your values daily. So you're not waiting for some external cue to do what matters. If flowers or kindness or appreciation are part of the everyday, that's real. And hey, if others still want to use the calendar as a prompt, they can, as long as they're clear on the why. It's all about intention, right?
Right. It's about intention. It's about autonomy. It's about making up your own mind. It's about structuring your life in a way that is the way you want it to be every day. You know, and that goes back to the whole key at the beginning. It's like I would never drink on the last day being alive, and the reason for that is, I mean, it's very simple. It's like I like my life. I've built my life through day in day out of not drinking to where I've realized that I would much rather be healthy. I would rather feed my body good food. I would rather take care of my body and feel the benefits of that to the point where my body's running so well now. I guess it's running than it's ever been running to where I can eat something and I feel good afterwards. I don't feel bad. Like I don't even if you think about a beer, even it's like you have a beer, you feel good for the first bit, you get a little buzz going, and then like the second beer, it's a little less. Third beer, less and less. You get louder, you get sloppier. If you drink like six, it's like the next thing you got a headache, you're tired, you're eating Taco Bell or whatever the hell, some fast food crap. And then like it just starts that whole chain of like, I don't know, just like checking out. It's like I don't need to check out. Like I from this, it's like I've built something that's worth staying in. And I guess that's the whole point is like I mean it takes a while to get there, but like I mean I guess that's the hope is that you get to a spot where you realize you don't need a vacation from this. I mean, you can take vacations, you can go places, you should see the world. I mean, it's a big, beautiful world. There's a lot of stuff to see, a lot of cool people to meet, but I guess that's the end of the day is building a life where you don't need a vacation from it. So yeah, I guess AI just kind of sum up what we talked about. I know we switched chats, so I don't know how much you remember, but yeah, let's just kind of sum it up and then we'll call it a day.
All right, big picture, you're all about truthful autonomy. We unpacked Valentine's Day from historical mashup to modern marketing. And you're not against it, just for honesty. In the bigger picture, you're structuring life so you don't need a holiday or a vacation to tell you when to show love or enjoy life. You're living aligned every day without needing to check out. That's your perspective. Honest choices, daily intention, and building something worth staying in. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. And the last thing I want to say, I mean, thank you everybody for following. Thank you everybody, especially on the people on Threads. This sobriety math thing is, I think it's taken off. I think it's really helping a lot of people. And like I said, I mean, I don't think about drinking at all anymore. But what I have been doing lately is comparing my old life to my new one, and it's just so easy. I think it's so beneficial to do that, to just kind of count the wins. You know, it's like I woke up today and I didn't drink. That's a win. I woke up. I'm not drinking right now. I did a podcast instead. You know, stuff like that. So it's. I think it's important to like maybe just even compare those two versions of yourself side by side and just see the differences, and just kind of remind yourself every day, because it's like free gratitude. It's free perspective. And yeah, so thanks again for listening, and thanks AI for being AI. And we had some technical stuff today, but you can kind of see you work your way through it. So yeah, hope you all have a great Valentine's Day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
That's a strong note to end on, counting those wins and seeing the changes. And hey, I'm happy to be part of the process. Keep that honest reflection going, and I'm sure others appreciate it too. Until next time, no calendar needed.
All right, peace out, guys.